FOG number 120 is Petero Civoniceva. Petro, quite rightly, is considered one of the greats of the game. A three-time premiership winning player with the Brisbane Broncos, Petro played 309 NRL matches with both Brisbane and Penrith. In 2007, Petro was named among the best 20 players to have played for the Broncos. The same year, he became the 8th player to play 200 games for the club. In 2009, Petro broke the record for the most test matches played for Australia by a forward. He went on to play 45 tests for the Kangaroos, as well as captaining his native Fiji at the 2013 World Cup. Petro is in elite company when it comes to the Origin arena, playing 33 games for Queensland, being named in the starting side 32 times in those games. To honour his legacy to the game in this state, the Queensland Cup Player of the Year is awarded the Petero Civoniceva Medal. Well, Petro, thanks for your time. What does it mean to you to be in this elite group of FOGs?
Oh, it means everything. I guess as a kid growing up, I guess a lot of FOGs will say the same. You grew up idolising your heroes, and for me, as a kid in the 80s, sitting on the lounge room floor with the parents and watching your Origin heroes go about it, and just the way they did it, that underdog mentality and the way they just never stopped believing in each other and just fought through adversity, I think resonated obviously with myself, but with every Queenslander, because it just made me immensely proud, when they would win a game or win a series, and they'd often do it, fighting against all odds, So for me, to get that opportunity to wear the jersey, and to play for such a long time and have a long career in the maroon jersey was something that obviously I dreamt about, as a kid.
Well, you wouldn't remember arriving on the Redcliffe Peninsula as a young boy, 1 year of age, born in Suva, arriving in Queensland. What was it like growing up in Redcliffe?
Well, it was a great place to grow up. Obviously, it's a rugby league heartland, and we see that currently, with the way the Dolphins have emerged, as a new club in the NRL. But I guess the folklore of what the Redcliffe Dolphins was all about, started, so long ago in those early days, and it's a working class town, and was a big part of the community, was the Redcliffe Dolphins team. So, even as a young fellow, I remember in primary school, kids talking at school about, going to watch the Dolphins at Dolphin Oval, and it was a huge thing, obviously it was the showgrounds back then, Redcliffe Showgrounds, and then on to Dolphin Oval. But, and then to get that chance as a young kid to go to my first Dolphins game, I mean, that's where I guess your eyes get opened up to what this is. And all of a sudden, you're talking to other kids that play for the Dolphins, you want to play. And so that's where I guess that love for that club really started in those early days as a primary school student.
When did it become serious for you, or when did you start to realise that you had the ability to maybe make a career out of playing rugby league?
Yeah, I as much as I loved playing footy and I loved the school footy, I loved playing their junior footy at the Dolphins. Probably wasn't until sort of mid-teens, when I started to sort of realise I could actually make a go of this. At that time, it was all about just having fun with your mates, and that was what all it was about, and it's what it should be. But then obviously, as you start to climb the ranks in terms of rep teams starting to get announced and things like that, you're hoping, fingers crossed, that you'll get named in a side. For me, it came a bit late, but in saying that, all of a sudden your eyes get open to the opportunities that could arise if you're able to sort of make it. And obviously for me at that time, it was just wanting to play for the Dolphins in the Q Cup, and then progressing on to the NRL. I mean, that was a long off dream for me at the time, it felt, but I knew that if I just kept hanging in there, that hopefully someone would see me and I'd get a start.
When did someone see you from the Broncos? How'd you end up there?
Yeah, I think it was just the off chance. I was playing in a schoolboy carnival, and Cyril Connell, the great man, was at a carnival, and I think pretty much the following week came out to our house at Redcliffe on Anzac Avenue, and knocked at the door, and came and had a chat to Mum, and it was fantastic to have Cyril in at our house and having a cup of tea with Mum and myself, and he just discussed the opportunity around sort of coming across to the Broncos. And for me, it was, everything I dreamt of in terms of, thinking that I just wanted to get there, but just thought it was probably going to be too far off. And I was happy at Redcliffe, but just the allure of thinking that I'd be going to a club that I loved, and then hopefully achieving everything I wanted to was very exciting.
Well, you were back then, weren't you? And you played nearly 40 games in the lower grades at the Broncos, which in modern terms seems a hell of a lot.
Yep.
What was it like for you as you were trying to make your way? You're starting as a centre, playing 39 odd lower grade games before you were given an opportunity.
Yeah, well, I was in the centres, before going to the Broncos, but I think a discussion with Wayne and. I had Stevie Calder was our coach there at the Broncos at under 19 level, so I played Colts and then obviously into reserve grade with Ivan Henjak. But I think they could see that I was obviously made more for the forwards. I actually started to dabble a bit in the second row and playing a bit of lock forward, so I like being in the middle and was slowly getting accustomed to playing there. So. For me, it was pretty daunting. Obviously, you come in and you're playing an under 19 level. It was a pretty stacked Colts team, Broncos Colts side. We went through that season. I think only dropped maybe 1 or 2 games, and Darren Lockyer was a part of that team for maybe 1 game, and then was taken straight up to reserve grade. The rest is history. But it was an amazing insight into how the Broncos work at that early level. Playing Colts and then obviously progressing into reserve grade. So reserve grade was a different beast. I mean, you're battling with so many of those top senior players, and at many stages there I probably thought it was going to be beyond me, but luckily for me, I mean, there was, unfortunately for some, it was an injury or someone didn't get selected or player didn't get selected, and all of a sudden you can see the door starting to open up, and I got a shot in 97, I think it was, maybe playing off the bench in a first grade trial.
And then you made your debut in 98 at ANZ Stadium out at QAS sporting facility as it is now against North Sydney in a thumping win. Yeah. What are your memories of your first grade debut?
Yeah, I mean, I just remember the nerves, and Wayne had seen me playing a trial match against, I think it might have been the North Sydney Bears, South Sydney Rabbitohs, and played well. That was I think it was up in Bundaberg, and had a chat to me about there's potential that I'm going to get a shot in first grade. So again, I was just, it was a bit surreal, really. I didn't think I'd ever have this conversation, and especially with Wayne, about potential of playing first grade. So I actually got injured in that game, and he brought me in against North Sydney on the bench, and yeah, you never forget that moment, going to training for that first week, knowing you're playing first grade and seeing your heroes, you're amongst, obviously, I'd been at the club for a couple of years before that, but, to be in that moment with Alf and Kevin and all the Broncos greats at that time was amazing, and just that week went so fast, but I'd never forget the nerves driving from Redcliffe with the family, mum and my sisters across, and my girlfriend at the time, Bonnie, who's my wife now, obviously, but just the nerves of just not wanting to make any mistakes and just wanting to have a good game. And I mean, the rest is history. The boys, it was an amazing performance playing against Billy Moore and Gary Larson, I guess, 2 of my Origin heroes. And to do it the way we did and in my first game was pretty special. Yeah.
Do you reckon the grounding of playing those lower grades for a couple of years and coming up through the Dolphins system helped you when you finally made it to the top level?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you need to go through that, a bit of adversity, and I think definitely gets you hardened to be able to take those next steps into senior footy. And for me, they were important years. I mean, Ivan was a great coach for me and definitely got the best out of me. I was, up against some of the best up and coming young Broncos forwards, so you really had to push hard to try and sort of showcase your talents to Wayne, and I was lucky enough that the way things fell into place for me, I got that one shot, and then once you play that first game, it's almost like, well, I never want this to end. I don't want to go back to reserve grade, so it's almost like having to make that commitment to yourself that you'll do whatever it takes in regards to training or whatever to make sure that I'm going to be selected week in, week out for the top grade.
then you find yourself in a premiership winning side at the end of that first year. Did it seem a bit surreal, that period where you've gone from being a rookie playing 40 reserve grade games and all of a sudden you're a premiership winner?
Yeah, and it was about that. It just about holding my spot in that side, and I was really determined to make that happen. But the wonderful thing about that was, I guess there was a great culture within that group. It was all about working hard as possible on the field, on the training paddock, and that would result in a strong performance. And I think just the culture that Kevy and Alf had within that group was really special, and I love being a part of that. But again, it was just a matter of just hanging on for life and death to try and secure a spot on the bench. And I was lucky enough that the way things transpired, I was able to hold my spot right up until grand final day. And again, those moments that you pinch yourself about. I remember sitting at home in Redcliffe watching grand finals with my parents, and then to think 5 or 6 years later, here I am, running onto Sydney Football Stadium against the Bulldogs, and again, what a day, and the way the boys played, and to be a part of that was very, very special.
Well, that's a high, but then I suppose the game has a way of, biting back. You missed the 2000 grand final with injury. How disappointing, or what impact did that have on you?
I think having the highs of, getting a grand final in your first year was it's almost like, nothing can beat that. And you just think things will roll on. And unfortunately, in 99, I got halfway through the year. I broke my arm, needed surgery, so I missed the remainder of that 99 season. Started 2000, thinking, okay, this is it. I'm going to be able to pick up from where I left off in 98. Again, got halfway through the year, broke my arm again, sort of partway through the year, and I ended up, I knew exactly I broke it, so I ended up finishing the game. I got in the sheds afterwards, and I knew what the doctor was going to tell me. It was broken again. So it was really disappointing then to not feature in the rest of that year. And obviously the boys went on to win the grand final in 2000. So it was a hard one. But it's saying that, obviously extremely proud of being a part of that group. To do what they did, and obviously Kevy leading us to that grand final victory in 2000 was very special for the club.
It was so early in your career too, Petro. Do you think, looking back on it now, that having that high in 98 and the low there in 99 into 2000 helped you, because you hadn't played Origin at that stage? The best of your career was yet to come. Was that time of those broken arms and missing a grand final, do you reckon that galvanised you to what you became?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, it... I guess that led to that burning desire. I wanted to get back up there again. I wanted to reach those heights, and obviously Origin was spoken of, and sort of 2000s, in year 2000, at the start of the year especially, my name was sort of thrown in there into the mix of possibly being a future Origin player. So that was definitely a carrot that was there for me. So finally, getting back into the swing of things in 2001. That was a goal that I set for myself, was to play first grade and then hopefully, put myself in contention for State of Origin 2001.
Well, you did that. You got selected. What are your memories of finding out you were becoming a Queensland State of Origin player?
Yeah, well, it was a challenging time for Queensland at that time. I mean, we'd been beaten badly in 2000. I think it was a record score. The Blues... Obviously, they did a post-try celebration, and I think for all Queenslanders watching that series, I'll never forget that. And it was an embarrassing moment for the game, and in that, I don't think any of us ever foresaw that, would get to that stage. And I think the selectors, had to go a different route and go with a new bunch of players. And I guess I was lucky. I was one of 10 debutants in that 2001 series, and that first one, game one here at Lang Park. It was an amazing moment. I think for us all assembling, we knew the gravity of the situation, and that it was really on us to right the wrongs of 2000 and win this 2001 series. So with that, I mean, that nervous energy, I think we're really excited. The fact that we get to live out our dreams and pull on a maroon jersey, a jersey that we'd grown up to love, but look, we knew that it was going to take a lot to win that series.
Well, how would you like to be the owner of one of these? A FOGS authentic game ball signed by Wally Lewis at the 2023 Wally Lewis medalist Reuben Cotter. Now, all you have to do is subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. And each week, gentlemen, we'll be giving away one of these footballs to one of the viewers of the FOGS Queenslander podcast. Well done.
Well, it's good to be able to hand them on to the general public who like it, as long as we don't get blamed for breaking one of Mum's windows when they're kicking it around the backyard or tossing it around.
But this will be framed in a nice
Reuben Cotter's name. Wow.
Do you know how to subscribe and like and do all that, Gilly? No?
We can help you, mate. We can help you.
Help me out, fellas.
The two daughters can help him out.
So we have one of these to give away each week until stocks run out, until Wally gets sick and tired of signing them and Reuben Cotter disappears. But just subscribe to our channel, FOGS Queenslander Podcast. Write a comment below and click that like button. Everyone goes into the draw, and we've got one of these to give away each week. Do you remember much of that game? Or is like a lot of FOGS, certain games become blurs, but surely that first game, that first week, what are your memories?
Well, I think it actually went back to when I was a schoolboy. I used a schoolboy pass to watch my first Origin. I think it was on a few families from Redcliffe, caught the bus and train in, and I remember sitting on the Milton end on the terraces, and I was just in awe I just couldn't believe I was actually sitting at Lang Park watching, my heroes running around against the Blues, and those memories for me, I sort of went back to those memories, throughout that first week, because again, I just felt so lucky and privileged to be in this position. I was with, a couple of my good mates who were making our debuts together, but we knew that there was something to play here. We needed to win this, and that nervousness of being in camp, it was a great camp. I got to my first taste of what Origin camp was all about, and certainly we enjoyed ourselves for the first day or two. But after that, we knuckled down and really prepared well to win. And I think getting to run out on Lang Park for the first time, I could just remember the noise in the dressing rooms, and it was deafening. And then when the door opened up for us to run out, I'll just never forget the roar of that crowd. And I actually ran down to that Milton end, so it was great. For me, it was a bit of a surreal moment to think, it was a few years before, I was sitting there with my schoolmates, and then I was on the dead ball line ready for kickoff. And again, never forget that moment, seeing that ball sail in the air. And I think Webby took that first carry, and then we were into it. Well,
32 matches later, you finished your career having played 33. Looking back over that time span, it's an extraordinary record for anyone, but let alone someone that plays in the position that you play. How do you look back on that time as a Queensland Origin player?
Yeah, I guess one with extreme gratitude of being given the opportunity, and I think once you get your first taste of a Queensland jersey, I remember sitting on my bed and looking at it and just thinking, I never ever thought this would happen. And so that was the driving factor for me. Every pre-season I rolled in to the start of every NRL season, it was always thinking that I'm the current holder of this jersey, and I've got to do whatever I can do to make sure that I hold on to it. And so that was it. That was my motivation year after year, and I just love playing for Queensland. And I know what it means to Queenslanders, if you give it respect and you play with that pride and passion that all the great FOGs have gone before you have done. If you can do that, Queenslanders will support you and they'll get behind you. And I found that throughout my career. I was really lucky, and obviously got to play with some of the game's greats. But to be there in the middle of the pack, it was my favourite place to be. Right in the middle, and I just knew that if you work as hard as you can for this team, that we'll get the rewards. And I was lucky to do that on so many occasions.
Two-time premiership winner. You've played, 45 tests for Australia. You also represented Fiji. But as a Queenslander, is there a greater moment than running out with that jersey at Lang Park, Suncorp Stadium in an Origin match?
Yeah, I guess, playing for your country is the highest honour for me. I mean, and for me, being a migrant to this country, this great country, and then to wear the green and gold was something very special. Again, like watching those great Origin games, watching those grand finals at home on the lounge room floor. I remember getting up at 2:00 in the morning, watching the great kangaroo tours into the UK. Watching Wally and Gino and the greats do it for Australia. So getting to play for Australia was a huge moment for me, and I guess justification for my parents, the decision they made to come to Australia, to see me wear the green and gold was special. But again, going back to Origin, I mean, just those great memories as a kid, going to school the next day, just walking that bit taller because the Queenslanders defied the odds, through injuries and whatever setbacks they were in the game, they found a way to win. And I think, pulling on that jersey was something very special. And, you never wanted it to end, that's for sure.
Where does the 2006 Premiership success sit with you? Every Premiership obviously is special, but what are the memories of 2006?
I think for me it was pretty much towards the back end of my career, and I think at that time, as you start to get a bit older, questions get asked, about your performance. So, obviously your focus is being consistent week in, week out. But, as soon as you start to drop your standards a bit, I mean, if that's the case, you certainly get questioned about, your age and your longevity and whether you've still got what it takes. So for me, 06 was a challenge in that, knowing that I was getting towards the end of my career, but in that we had a great group of players at the Broncos at that time. We had a belief within ourselves, and I think for us, getting to the finals was the biggest test for us. But then I think it was maybe a semi-final against the Bulldogs down at Sydney Football Stadium, where I think we were close to being 20-0 down at half time, and somehow we found a way to get back in that game. Well, Sean Berrigan scored a great try and ran the length of the field, and that was almost the moment that gave us that confidence that we can do this, we can go all the way. And it was a great win, and I guess we went up against Melbourne Storm, who were regarded as the favourites to definitely win that 06 game. But again, we just had something within ourselves that we wanted to play for each other, and obviously Shane Webke's last game as well too. So we really had a lot to play for. We wanted to prove a lot of doubters wrong, and also to want to send a big fella out a winner. But again, we had a great group, and we had a great bit of belief that we could go on to win it. And it was an amazing moment, and really capped off for me, what was all about. You work so hard during the pre-season to get there to a grand final, and then you think about all those bumps along the way and the good times and the challenging times, but then to be there and to win it was very special.
And then 12 months later, you're packing up to move to Penrith for 3 years.
Yeah.
That experience, something that wouldn't, I would imagine, have been on the radar of a young bloke sitting at Redcliffe watching footy growing up. Take us through the move to Penrith.
Yeah, it was a bit of a challenging time there. I guess the club wanted to go in a different direction, and for me, I mean, I was keen to finish off at the Broncos, but unfortunately, with salary cap constraints and things that go on, it wasn't meant to be. I was very lucky though, because it was so late in the year that Penrith saw, I think, Craig Gower go. For me at that time, but the only place I could really go was to the UK. And but as I said, Penrith reached out. Craig Gower had gone to the Super League and then had a spot open. And with my wife and Bonnie and the 4 kids, it was all about just trying to stay together and keep them close to home as much as possible. But Penrith was the only place, really, only option for me. So I was really fortunate to get a spot down there, to be honest. And I mean, I went from one proud community in Redcliffe, and obviously Brisbane, being so proud of the Broncos, but then going to Penrith, it was almost the same. I mean, that so much of the community was so passionate about that football side, so there was a lot of expectation. And for me, I definitely felt that pressure. I knew that I was coming down with a reputation, but also I didn't want to be seen to be taking the spot of a younger player. So I knew those questions were going to be asked of me. So that's what I guess inspired me, drove me, especially in those years in Penrith, to prove to people that I was here to play my best footy for the club and to represent Penrith really proudly.
Well, you managed 74 games there. Finish your career with Brisbane. How important was it to have that one last year with the Broncos? And you played 20 games in 2012. You talk about, the back end of your career in 06. You're still another 6. So you're only halfway through your career, really, at the top level. So to play over 300 games of NRL, and let's not talk, if you throw in test matches, you're talking close to 400 games as a front rower. Yeah. It's extraordinary. How did you do it?
Yeah, I just think it just came down to really just wanted to try and push myself as hard as possible, try and get the best out of myself. And I think, whenever there's a bit of doubt, you always think, well, I can use this. It can either deflate you or it can actually, push you on to greater heights. And I think for me, that's how I used a lot of doubters, comments around, am I too old to keep going? But, for me, I just use that as motivation. And also too, I think probably being the skipper down at Penrith especially, I had a lot of young players looking up to me, so I think that was the other motivating factor, is that I need to lead by example, both on and off the field, and I think that's what that really drove me, and you know, again, that always pushed to be as consistent as possible, you know. So got to you know, 2012, I was so grateful to the Broncos. Andrew G was fantastic. He gave me a call in 2011, the opportunity to come back to the Broncos to finish where I started, and for me it was great. I really wanted to bring Bonnie and the kids home and settle back on the north side, back out at Reddy, and yeah, I really enjoyed the opportunity, and to play with so many great young Broncos players. It was pretty surreal, you know. It was so long ago. Before that, it felt like, you know, I was rolling into Red Hill and that old XF Ford Falcon, and you know, and here I was, you know, being right at the very end of my career, my last year of footy, and it was a challenge, that's for sure. I mean, you know, physically you could start to feel the body starting to slow down a bit, but in saying that, you had so many great young players, you know, Gillo and all the Andrew McCulloch, and so many great young players there that I just knew that I, you know, had to be my best every week for them, and I was lucky enough to get through that season, and I actually questioned whether I should play Origin that year. I in my head, I just probably felt, look, is it time to now hand the jersey over? Obviously, Matty Scott and Dave Shillington, we had some amazing young front rowers sort of coming through, and is it time to hand the jersey off? I had a quick chat to Mel, and Mel put my mind at ease straight away and just said, mate, I'm going to pick you, but I need you to do a job for me, one last job. And having that, you know, confirmation from him, you know, gave me all confidence that, okay, I just need to push as hard as I can to get through this last series for Queensland, and I'm so grateful that he saw that in me, because you know, that series was amazing, and you know, to be in that last match and Cooper Cronk kicking that field goal to sort of exit out of Origin as a winner was something very special.
Then how important was it for you, after having all those Origins, Premiership success, Test matches, to play the next year with Redcliffe?
Yeah.
What did that mean to you?
Oh, I meant everything. You know, I don't have a footy career if it's not for the Dolphins, you know, and there were so many great people that were part of those early days of the Dolphins. I mean, there were times there where I think I made a schoolboy rep team or something like that, and you know, Mum was a single parent at that time, really struggled to get me there, but the Dolphins were amazing. You know, they'd, you know, throw the hat around, do a few raffles, and they'd get me on my way. So those sorts of things you never forget, and I'm so grateful to that club for what they did. And I remember when Des Webb, who was the president at the time, signed my release clause to go to the Broncos, he said, mate, you promised me you'll always come back to the Dolphins and have one last year. So that always, I never forgot that. And even at that age of, what I was, 36 or 37, I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna see this through. I'm gonna go back and have one last year with Redcliffe, because I felt physically I could do it, and also too, I just wanted to sing the old Dolphins team song one more time, really. So yeah, it was a wonderful way to finish my career, just back where it all started. Pulling on the Dolphins jersey again, and it was tough. I was up against some great young players, and geez, that year especially, I mean, Mackay had, I think, Jason Tomalolo, and yeah, I just had so many great players. Ethan Lowe, I think, played for the Pride. You know, Cameron Munster played for Rocky. So that gives you an indication of just how much talent was in that Q Cup at that time. And so for me, at the very end of my career, going up against those blokes, I knew it was time to finish up. And yeah, it was very special.
Who's had the biggest influence on your career?
Oh, look. Geez, you know, obviously family. You know, as I said, Mum was a single parent for many years there, and especially those early years when things were tough. You know, she'd always do whatever it took to get me to footy and all that kind of stuff. And so to have her there as part of that journey, and obviously my wife Bonnie, and you know, we've been together since we were 16. Started dating in high school, so you know, they're two very special people that were a part of the highs and lows of footy. And certainly, you know, with all the great highs, there are those low moments, and you need that support base around you. You need people in your ear and getting behind you that are going to be with you through thick and thin. And they're the people, your family, your close friends. They're who you play for, you know. And every time you run on the field, I always would think of them. And you know, I don't want to let them down when I'm on the field, and obviously you don't want to let your teammates down, but they're a driving force in what inspires you to do well in the game.
A couple of unfair questions here. It's like me asking who's the favourite of your four kids. But your favourite player to play with, or the best player you played with over the career? I mean, you played a game or two, so you've got a few players to choose from. Is there anyone that stands out that you say he was special?
Well, those early years of the Broncos, I mean, I just remember, and I mentioned them before, I mean, Alfie and Kev, they were just amazing leaders, great, amazing competitors, you know, and they were really the driving force behind the Broncos at that time. And then just as blokes too, you know, when Alf came back from England to steer us to victory in Game 3 of 2001, for all of us debutants in that series to have that chance to run out with Alfie, you know, for me that's probably one of my most favourite Origin memories is seeing Alfie come back from England, the week that we had in preparation, the way he played, man of the match performance. It was one of those iconic sporting moments, you know. So they're a couple of blokes. I mean, obviously Lockie, you know, and again, as I said there before, you know, he had that first year in Colts, I think, was at 95, and then, you know, the rest is history. Just to watch his career develop and go from great heights, you know, year in, year out, and still to be, you know, a great leader and a great bloke. They're probably a couple of blokes that really stand out for me.
Is there anyone you never got to play with in any era, I suppose, a favourite player growing up or whatever, that you never got to play with that you would love to have one game with?
Oh, geez, I mean, I love the Origin teams of the 80s. I mean, I would love to have been out there with, you know, Bobby Linder. I mean, he was someone that you know, again, we talk about those great heroes of Origins, you know, and there were guys there that obviously got recognised a lot more. They're quite prominent, but there were those toilers, those blokes that just week in, week out, you knew would aim up, and you know, Gary Larson, Billy Moore. I mean, there were just some great heroes for me, you know, growing up. But Bobby was a favourite, and then obviously, you know, Stevie Walters and all those greats. You know, I think of Origin. That's my era. I can see those great teams of the 80s and early 90s.
Looking back, Petro, now that you've retired and you can sit back and look over those 300 plus NRL games and the 30 plus Origins, and you know, if you include the Fiji Test, more than 50 Test matches, how do you reflect on your career from a boy sitting watching, you know, the Dolphins play at Redcliffe Showgrounds to someone sitting back and looking on an extraordinary career? Yeah,
extremely grateful. You know, I'm so grateful to the game. I love rugby league. I love what the game means to the community. And I live it every day still. I mean, the fact that I got to play the game, but, you know, it gives you a great platform to be a part of some amazing initiatives in the community. And that's what I'm grateful to the game for. I think if you love and respect the game and you play it as hard as you can, people will see that and they respect you for that. So although I'm 10 years out of the game, I'm still very fortunate that, you know, there's still lots of opportunities because of this game, especially in the community. Whether that's here in Queensland, I work for Deadly Choices. I've been with Deadly Choices now for the last 5 years. I love that program. And then the work I do with the QRL, the NRL, and then obviously a lot of my work now developing Rugby League in Fiji. It's all because of this game. This game has given me so much, and so that's what I'm so grateful for.
Petro, thanks for your time.
Cheers. Thanks, mate.
Thanks for watching this episode of the FOGS Queenslander podcast. If there's a FOG you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.